On a hill overlooking Louisville, Kentucky, sits a building with narrow windows staring down like hollow eyes. This is Waverly Hills. During the tuberculosis outbreak of the 1920s, the crisis became so severe that this enormous structure was built to hold over 400 patients. Doctors believed fresh air slowed the disease, so thousands spent their final days on these open-air porches, looking out at the isolated Kentucky hills. Marcus spent 3 years making a career out of proving ghosts weren't real. He approached every legendary haunting as if he were a technician looking for a circuit breaker. His identity rested on a single rigid premise. There is no such thing as a haunting, only a mystery that hasn't been solved by a rational mind yet. Then he spent one night inside Waverly Hills Sanitarium. He left the building before sunrise, abandoned his investigation, and never uploaded the footage. Months later, he returned to his channel and dropped 4 words into a comment section: "I changed my mind." For an absolute skeptic, changing his mind represents a total failure of the system he used to navigate the world. Marcus walked in with a specific theory. He believed hauntings are simply psychological residue, the human brain projecting grief into dark spaces to fill with silence. He arrived to prove that the human mind, not the supernatural, is the true architect of horror. He began his investigation alone in the Body Chute, a 525-foot concrete tunnel beneath the hospital that was once used to transport the dead away from the living. In the absolute silence of the tunnel, he heard a cough. It was soft, wet, and filled with the sound of someone in real physical pain. He spun his flashlight, found nothing, and immediately logged the noise as acoustic distortion. He relied on technical terminology to keep the world making sense. Rationalization served as a cognitive shield. By turning the terrifying sound into a plumbing error, he avoided the fact that he was standing in an empty, echoing tunnel. On the 4th floor, his flashlight hit a figure at the end of the hallway, a dark silhouette absorbing the light rather than reflecting it. Marcus ran toward the doorway. He reached the room in seconds, checking every corner and closet. There was no one there, and no sound of anyone leaving. Then he heard a ball bouncing on the floor above him, a slow, rhythmic sound that matched the building's lore of children playing in the corridors. He forced himself to blame fatigue and low-light visual distortion, using his notes like a script, desperately trying to stay in character as a skeptic. His logical tools were no longer analyzing data. They were acting as life support for a belief system that was dying. He entered room 502, a space with a dark reputation for suicide that he intended to debunk as confirmation bias. When Marcus stepped inside, a bottomless grief pressed down behind his sternum. It was the same specific, sourceless sorrow he had felt years ago at his mother's funeral. He repeated his mantra, "Not real." But his camera battery died instantly. He reached for a spare, and it was dead too. He pulled out his phone to check the time, but the screen stayed black. In the total silence of the 5th floor, a soft female voice whispered a single word right next to his ear: "Leave." The armor was gone. He realized with absolute certainty that this grief was an external force invading his mind. Marcus kept moving. He was driven by the refusal to stop and process the fact that his reality was crumbling. 3rd floor nurse's station, his flashlight caught something moving. It was a shape with limbs too long and joints that bent the wrong way, sliding effortlessly up the vertical wall like water. This violation of physics was the final failure. The scientific method doesn't have a category for a shadow moving against gravity. And in that moment, Marcus's entire identity collapsed. He sat paralyzed on the front steps until dawn, refusing to look back at the building behind him. In the clear morning light, Waverly Hills looked completely mundane. It was just brick, broken glass, and a quiet history. But Marcus knew better. He realized the historical tragedy had left a permanent mark, and his skepticism had been a comforting lie. He walked to his car and never looked back. He completely abandoned his life's work, because accepting the existence of the unexplainable is more terrifying than any ghost story. Which moment do you think broke Marcus's certainty? The voice in room 502, or the thing on the wall? Leave your thoughts below. and subscribe to The Shiver Place for more historical horror. The next one is already waiting.
Subscribe for more horror content.